Beneath the Hudson River, a colossal transformation with a $16 billion price tag is underway. One that could decide the fate of America's busiest rail corridor. The Hudson Tunnel Project promises to secure the daily journey for more than 200,000 commuters and safeguard a rail link critical to 20% of the nation's passenger economy. But the original North River tunnels, marvels of 1910 engineering, are now corroded, battered by over a century of use and the lingering scars of Hurricane Sandy. One catastrophic failure away from plunging the Northeast into chaos. If these 100-year-old giants falter, billions in economic activity could disappear overnight. The question is, can the new lifeline be built quickly enough? Or are we already running out of time? On November 27, 1910, the first trains passed beneath the Hudson River, traveling through tunnels that defied the era's imagination. Built by the Pennsylvania Railroad, these twin tubes were the product of nearly a decade of relentless engineering, an audacious attempt to bridge the final, stubborn gap between New Jersey and Manhattan. Early 20th century engineers faced a riverbed of pure mud, shifting and unpredictable, where traditional methods failed. To conquer it, they deployed compressed air shield technology, using massive 194-ton steel shields to push through silt with the consistency of toothpaste. Each advance demanded nerve and precision. Workers toiled deep below the river, risking sudden blowouts and decompression sickness, while above, New York's skyline grew ever taller. Segmental cast iron rings, each weighing 22 tons, lined the tunnels, locked together and reinforced with 22 inches of concrete. The result was the world's longest underwater tunnel at the time, an unbroken link that would serve millions for generations. Yet from the very beginning, the design carried inherent limits. With just two single-track tubes, the tunnels could handle only 24 trains per hour, even at full tilt. This bottleneck, invisible to the city above, became the sole gateway for all rail traffic into Manhattan from the south. Over the decades, as the region's population and ambitions soared, the tunnel's original brilliance faded into a daily constraint. Their endurance is a testament to the vision and grit of those first builders, but their fragility now shapes the fate of an entire corridor. When a century-old lifeline shoulders the demands of a modern metropolis, every crack and failure carries consequences that ripple far beyond the river's edge. In late October 2012, Hurricane Sandy pushed a wall of seawater into the heart of the Northeast Corridor. 13 million gallons flooded the North River tunnels, submerging cables, electrical systems, and concrete walls in corrosive brine. The water retreated, but the salt remained, seeping deep into concrete and steel. Chlorides and sulfates, left behind by the storm surge, set off a relentless chemical attack, weakening the tunnel's structure from within, year after year. For commuters, the impact was immediate and enduring. Electrical cable failures multiplied. Overhead wires carrying 12,000 volts began to falter, and drainage systems clogged with debris. Trains that once ran with clockwork precision now crawled through the darkness, delayed by signal failures and power outages. Between 2014 and 2018, the North River tunnels and the aging Portal Bridge triggered 2,000 hours of delays. Trains passing through the tunnels were delayed nearly 2 out of every 3 days. Each breakdown rippled across the region, leaving hundreds of thousands stranded or late for work. The corrosion did not stop at inconvenience. Engineers warned that the only way to fully repair the tunnels would be to close each tube for a year or more. But with both tubes in use, even a single closure would slash corridor capacity by up to 75%. dropping peak service from 24 trains per hour to as few as 6. The 2017 Summer of Hell brought the crisis into sharp focus. 330 trains canceled in just 6 weeks, nearly double the previous year. For the region's commuters, every morning became a gamble, every evening a test of patience. Beneath the river, the century-old lifeline was dissolving, one chemical reaction at a time. The question was no longer if repairs were needed, but how long the system could hold before a full-scale shutdown would ripple through the economy, the workforce, and the daily lives of millions. In 2009, construction began on the access to the region's core, or ARC, a project set to deliver a new rail tunnel beneath the Hudson for the first time in nearly a century. With $8.7 billion on the table and heavy machinery already breaking ground in North Bergen, the promise of relief for commuters seemed within reach. But by October 2010, the entire effort ground to a halt. Governor Chris Christie ordered the project canceled, citing fears of runaway costs that could leave New Jersey on the hook for billions more than planned. Work stopped overnight. Equipment was mothballed, contracts terminated, and $600 million in sunk costs vanished into administrative limbo. Federal officials demanded repayment of funds already spent, sparking legal battles that dragged on for years. The ARC's abrupt demise didn't just erase a decade of planning. It left the region's only rail lifeline as vulnerable as ever, and set off a new era of political gridlock over who would pay for the next solution. The decade after the ARC tunnel's abrupt cancellation became a lost era for Trans-Hudson Rail. Promises of a swift revival dissolved into a maze of political standoffs and shifting priorities. The Gateway program, unveiled in 2011 with bipartisan fanfare, soon found itself wedged between state house budgets and federal resistance. During the Trump administration, critical environmental approvals stalled for years, and funding pledges repeatedly slipped from the agenda. Each delay carried a price. Construction costs climbed, and the risk of a catastrophic tunnel failure grew. Amtrak and NJ Transit officials warned that a single tube closure could slash capacity by up to 75%, threatening billions in weekly economic output. Meanwhile, commuters endured chronic delays, with trains through the North River Tunnel running late nearly 2 out of every 3 days. Advocacy from leaders like Senator Schumer kept the project in headlines, but the region's lifeline remained hostage to gridlock, and the stakes for inaction only intensified. In July 2023, a line of signatures transformed the fate of the Hudson Tunnel Project. After years of stalemate, leaders from New York, New Jersey, and Washington finalized a funding agreement that would send $16 billion into the ground beneath the Hudson River. The federal government committed to covering 70% of the cost, a split that lifted the burden from state budgets and unlocked the largest federal transit grant ever awarded. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who had championed the Gateway program through countless setbacks, called it the aorta of America's economy. His persistence, along with the efforts of the Gateway Development Commission, turned political gridlock into momentum. The full funding grant agreement delivered $6.88 billion from the Federal Transit Administration alone, with additional billions from Amtrak and infrastructure loans. For the first time, the project had the financial muscle to move from blueprints to reality. The deal signaled not just a victory for commuters, but a turning point in how America invests in its busiest transportation corridors. With funding secured, the team prepared to break ground, ready to turn decades of planning into steel, concrete, and progress beneath the river. At the edge of North Bergen, 2 tunnel boring machines stand ready to change the fate of the Northeast Corridor. Each one weighs 1,680 tons, longer than a football field, bristling with over 1,000 sensors. Their task? Carve twin tubes beneath the Hudson at a steady pace of 30 feet per day, through hard Palisades rock and the soft, unpredictable silt beneath the river. Every day, concrete segments lock into place behind the cutters, forming a waterproof shell 25 feet wide, built to last for the next century. This is more than an engineering feat. It's a national economic engine in motion. The Hudson Tunnel Project is expected to create 95,000 jobs over its construction, from welders and crane operators to concrete specialists and logistics planners. The economic ripple is enormous, $19.6 billion in output, most of it flowing to American workers and suppliers. For each $10 spent on labor, $17 in wages and benefits spread across the country. Floodproofing stands at the heart of the design. Waterproof membranes, high-capacity drainage, and vent shafts placed above flood level guard against the next Sandy. The tunnels are built with seismic resilience in mind, able to flex with the ground if the earth shakes. Cross passages every 800 feet give passengers a safe way out, even in the worst-case scenario. This is the largest rail project in America, but it's also a proving ground for what's possible. Engineers, laborers, and planners are writing the next chapter of infrastructure, one that promises reliability, speed, and security for generations. As the machines push forward, so does the promise of a stronger, more connected future for the Northeast. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy pushed 13 million gallons of salt water into tunnels built in 1910, revealing just how vulnerable America's busiest rail corridor had become. For more than a decade, political gridlock stalled solutions, costing over $600 million in canceled plans and exposing 200,000 daily commuters to constant delays. The breakthrough came in 2023, with a record $16 billion in federal and state funding secured, the largest transit grant in U.S. history. Construction crews began work in 2024, launching tunnel boring machines weighing 1,680 tons and designed to carve a safer, more reliable future beneath the Hudson. Yet, some questions remain. Will the project meet its 2035 target? Will current safeguards prove resilient in the face of future storms and rising demand? What is certain? The Hudson Tunnel Project stands as a turning point, not just for New York and New Jersey, but for the entire Northeast Corridor. Its success or failure will shape rail travel, regional economies, and infrastructure ambitions for generations to come.